Welcome to the team call tonight, guys. I hope you guys are all doing really well. It's the 6th of July, which I can hardly believe that we're already this far into July and the summer and 2016. It's like blowing my mind. But the exciting thing about July is Summit is right around the corner, and that is like a huge event. And I know a lot of you guys on this call are going to meet us in Nashville, and I am psyched. If you are not sure what Summit is, reach out to your coach and they can give you all the details, but it's this incredible 4-day conference where we all get to meet and hang out in person and learn and hear inspiring stories and, I mean, just feel the community, which is so much different than behind a computer screen. So countdown is on. Also July, if you guys saw the challenge packs that are on sale this month, 21 Day Fix, 21 Day Fix Extreme, and 22 Hardcore. Like, they went big for the month of July. So that's going to help us a lot with helping all of our challengers meet their goals, and I'm really excited about that. And we are into the first week of our calendar. So if you guys check out the month plan for July, we're in that first week where we are focusing on inviting challengers to the challenge group. And I want to focus on that just for a few minutes to kind of help you guys know what to focus on this week for your business and give you some tips. And then we're going to focus a little bit on mindset, because I know a lot of people have kind of felt that slump this summer, and we're all busy with 9 million things going on. So hopefully that'll help you kind of zone in on what you want to focus on. That way you can be more effective in your business and keep your energy and excitement up. So this week, focusing on challenge groups, like I said, and the goal is to lock in Success Club by the weekend. And the reason for that is because it offers a lot of less stress. That's the best way to put it. A lot less stress, because when we're focused on helping people right away, it gets them set up for our challenge group, which starts next Monday, and they're ready to rock and roll. And you can get them going on their goals mid-July. They're hitting those goals by early August or mid-August, or if they're doing a 60-day program, still in summer. But it gets them rolling, and it gets you set up for July and allows you to help those challengers get plugged in, get them going on their stuff, and then also later this month to focus on finding more coaches to help them with their financial goals. So I know it's hard at the beginning of the month, especially if you were like locking in Success Club late in last month, that you're like, oh, I can take a break. It's the beginning of July. I have 30 days. I'm just going to breathe. But when you do that, it's easy to get into that slump and to pull yourself back out. So I recommend hitting it hard. And if you haven't started, it's okay. It's the 6th. But starting today, going full force to lock in Success Club, get that out of the way, get that stressor gone. That way you can focus on helping your challengers and building your team. And when you lock that in early, it sets you up for the end of the month. You can actually take a breather instead of like being on the last day inviting everybody you've ever met your entire life, seeing if they want to join you. Who's done that before? Yeah, we've all been there. It's not fun. So who's with me in locking it in earlier this month than last month? Yeah. Does anybody, this is going to be a little different style of a call. Obviously, I'm not Brad, even though it says I'm Brad. I don't look like him at all. But does anybody have any questions or confusion about how the scheduling works for July? I know Brad posted it on July 1st. And you can go back to hit photos, and it's like the 5th photo in if you need to bring it up and kind of see the schedule for the month. But it's a suggestion for how to move forward for the month. Any confusion? Okay. So I don't want to dwell too much on that, because if we don't have questions, I don't want to waste your time. So what I want to touch on today is a little bit more on mindset. Last week we had an awesome team call with everybody that went to Tony Robbins, and we shared some of our biggest takeaways and some tips you could implement. If you haven't seen that call, go back and watch that call. Like, I've already watched it 3 times because I mean, it's stuff that works, and it's stuff that's going to set us straight for this business. And so a little bit of what I'm going to share today is a little bit more Tony Robbins. And the reason for that is, like, this event, as you learned, kind of changed our lives. And I want you guys to have that benefit. And especially knowing the last few months, several of our teams have struggled with mindset. I'm hoping that some of this can kind of help get you thinking about where you're holding yourself back, because ultimately mindset is everything. We hold ourselves back in our relationships, in our career, in our own exercise goals. When that doubt and that fear creeps in, we're our worst enemy. And Tony talked about our 2 biggest fears. I know one of us talked about it last week. I can't remember who. But the 2 biggest fears that most humans have are that we're not enough, we're not good enough, and that we won't be loved. And just a quick show of hands, like, who on here can relate to one of those 2? Either that you're not good enough at something in some area of your life, or that you won't be loved. Exactly. And when he did that in the crowd, like, there were 8,000 people, and every single person clicked with that, because it's just reality of what we deal with every day. And so I want to focus on that a little bit more in depth than we did last week. So right now, if you have paper and pen, awesome. If you don't, just kind of do a mental scan. But I want you to right now think of the 2 or 3 things that cause the most stress in your life. And I'll give you a few minutes of silence to think about that. The 2 or 3 things that cause the most stress for you right now. Okay? Everybody good? Thumbs up if you're good. Cool. So those 3 things, I don't want you to feel like you have to share. But if you don't mind sharing at least one of them, type it into the chat box. And interestingly enough, a lot of times there's a lot of similarity with us, especially as people who are kind of striving for more. Work and finances, yup. Schedule, time. Yep, time management. Work and money. Yep, time and money and future. So you can kind of see that the things that cause us the most stress are common, and we get a lot of tips on how to handle these, but they seem to always be problems. Even when we've gone to coach trainings for a year and we hear about how to manage your time better and how to do a power hour and be efficient in your business and be efficient at work. And yet here we are, almost all of us are stressing about the same things. And what Tony Robbins talks about is underneath the things that are causing you the most stress are your true underlying fears. So the thing that that's always on your mind holding you back, look underneath that. So just to kind of give you an idea to start thinking, one of my biggest stressors is money, and underlying that is my fear that I won't be good enough to make this business successful so I can provide for my kids the way I want to provide in the future. So I think I'm just stressing about like money, right? But that's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is that underlying fear. And so take a second and kind of think about and of course I recommend you do this after the call when you can really spend time to reflect too. But I want you to think about that, is what underlying fear do you have underneath those stressors that's actually holding you back? Because we allow these stressors to be our excuses, but in reality, usually they're the reason we need to do it. If my fear is I'm going to fail in this business because I can't, and that means I can't provide for my kids the way I want to in the future, that's exactly why I need to be doing this business, is to create that future and to create that freedom and the financial freedom. And yet, so it's interesting that that underlying fear is what's holding me back, but it's also what I want the most. And when you can identify and kind of acknowledge and be honest with yourself of this is what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of if I fail, no one will love me. I'm afraid of not living up to the expectations that I set for myself or my spouse has for me or my parent or my children. I mean, those are, we care about how our loved ones feel. And this business is very abnormal. This is not what typical society preaches is what we should do for a career. And so we get challenged a lot, and it gets in our head, and we start doubting our capability. We start doubting that this is going to work. Every single coach goes through that. I mean, I've been here 1.5 years, 2 years, and every month that pops up. Like, is this going to work? Am I good enough? But reality is that's my fear talking. That's not me. That's not my capability. That's not my skill. And when you can identify what you're actually afraid of, it's like a release, like a weight lifts off your shoulder. And you can say, you know what? Yeah, I'm afraid of failing. And that's okay. That's a normal human fear. But by acknowledging that, now I can take action instead of just hiding in the blind spot. I think a lot of us tend to hide behind our fear. It's easier to say it's too hard. I don't have enough time. I don't have the money. I'm afraid I'm going to fail. But when you acknowledge that, you have to face it. And when you face it, that's when you make stuff happen. So another thing that kind of hit me is a lot of us base our fears on our past. What has happened to us in the past is going to dictate whether we think we're able to do it. How many people tried a weight loss program and failed before Beachbody? Weight Watchers, diet pills, gym, like those not, yeah. And so how many of you were maybe kind of hesitant to try Beachbody because the other stuff had failed? So, and some of you were like, no, I was all in because I needed something that worked and the other stuff didn't work. And that's awesome. But that faces a lot of our challengers too. And understanding that even as a coach or for our own fitness is often when we've faced failure in the past, we're afraid of that happening again. We're afraid of something not working because something in the past didn't work. And he talked about your biography is not your destiny. What has happened to you, what you've been through, the mistakes you've made, the things you failed, that is not your future. That is your past. But a lot of us expect that to be our future because it's already happened. And we almost set ourselves up to follow that same path. But when you recognize that what's happened is in the past and you're stronger and better because of what's happened for you. Life happened, I said this last week, life happens for you, not to you. And when you acknowledge that and you say, okay, I'm stronger and I've learned things, I've learned what doesn't work in my fitness and my health, so now I can move forward and use what does. And when you view your future as a whole separate entity than your past, it's like a divide. Like, okay, that's there and here's where I'm moving. And when you realize that and you stop looking in the rearview mirror, you can actually imagine what your future can look like. And so many of us have struggled financially. We haven't had enough money. We maybe couldn't pay all the bills. We were eating ramen for who knows how long. And a lot of people have been there. And so we almost expect to be there in the future. That's reality, right? How many people have told you, like, that's just life. That's just how it is. That's just normal. Like, your 9-to-5 job, barely paying the bills. That's the American dream. No, BS. It's not. And it doesn't have to be that way. And when we can realize that, okay, that's how things were, but that's not my future. That is not the destiny I'm choosing. I'm done looking at the past, and I'm only going to drive forward and move forward with my life. You can imagine and you can picture what is possible. The other thing with that is our brain. And if you think about this on like a very like basic human level or basic human survival level, our brains are made to survive. Our brains are made to help our bodies survive. They are not meant to make us happy. And he like stressed this. He's like, your brain wasn't developed to like make you feel happy and joyful all the time and excited and pleasant and yay, flowers and unicorns. Like, that's not its job. Its job is literally to keep us alive and help us survive. And fear brings us back to a reptilian brain, which is all survival, straight up. And this might be my therapist like sneaking out into this call. But when you are under anxiety or depressed, you snap back into that reptilian brain. You cannot rationalize clearly. You cannot think through actions and consequences and all that stuff we need to do. You're focused on survival, what you need to do in the moment. And so when these fears that we talked about, those stressors are taking over and they're preventing you from being able to take action, where are you acting? Back in that survival brain. You're not doing what's going to make you happy. You're not going to do what's taking you to the future. You're focused on the past and the memories which have taught you how to survive. So in order to bring ourselves back to where we can focus on the future and what we want and moving forward, we have to face those fears. We have to realize that that past and those fears are not related to our future. They do not define us. They do not define where we're going. The only thing that's keeping us from getting what we want, getting to where we want, is the BS story we tell ourselves, which is often based on that past. We give ourselves all the reasons why we can't be where we want to be. It's usually your stressors. I don't have enough time. My job is making me work overtime. I'm too tired when I get home. I'm too sore from last night's workout. I don't know enough people in this business to make this work. Someone told me no yesterday, and now they might not like me. Is that fact? Or are those BS reasons you're telling yourself to give yourself excuses and to validate your fears? I mean, how do you know what other people are thinking? Yes, a lot of us are short on time, especially the parents on this page. Like, I am not minimizing that, and I can't even understand. But you can find time for what's important. And you guys are a prime example of this. Like, you are the choir. And that's what we're trying to show other people is when things are important to you, you're going to overcome those fears and you're going to find a way to do it. Kind of like parents are a prime example on our team. Like, you guys, there's nobody busier than you guys. And you find the 30 minutes to get a workout in. Like, that blows my mind. But that's because you're not letting your past and where you were physically hold you back from where you want to be and that example you want to set for your kids or the goals you want to achieve. And the only thing truly, again, holding us back is ourselves and what the excuses we tell ourselves, those fears, those anxieties. So he talked about responsibility. The word responsibility is actually the ability to respond, to do what you have to do to take control. It is, as a therapist, again, my big thing is it's not your fault where you are. We didn't create the past hardships we've been to. We didn't decide what family we were raised in. We didn't decide where in the world we were born. Those are out of our control, but it is your responsibility now to take control of your life, make decisions to move forward. If you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you're overweight, it happened. That's okay. But it is our responsibility now to take that control and move forward with our lives. And we're the only ones who can do that. So the last thing I kind of want to touch on is he called them the 3 mandates to leadership. And so I think this is really relevant for moving ourselves forward, being our own leader. You have to lead yourself before you can lead a team. And if you're not going to lead yourself into your workout area and push play, if you're not going to lead yourself to the blender to make your Shakeology, if you're not going to lead yourself to your computer to do your power hour, who else is going to? And so this boils down to your own health, your own goals, but then also these are things you can directly pass on to your team. So there's 3 steps for the 3 mandates to leadership. The first is to see things as they are, not worse than they are. To see things as they are, not worse than they are. A lot of us, especially when we're overwhelmed or stressed, we do what we call catastrophizing. You turn it into a catastrophe. Like you get overwhelmed and everything's awful. Or someone says no and you get so worried about not hitting Success Club that whole month. Or I mean, those are my examples right now. But I'm sure you can think of those examples in your own life where we let our emotions and our fears trick us into thinking things are a lot worse than they actually are. And when you do that, like we talked about last week, you set yourself up to suffer. You're allowing your pain to turn into suffering. You can experience pain without suffering. But when you're choosing to focus on how awful things are, or you're blowing it, I don't want to say blowing it out of proportion, but sometimes we do that. And when you're in that negative suffering mind state, everything's worse. Okay. And that you can't lead yourself to action. You can't lead others to action when you're doing that. The second step is to see it better than it is. To see it better than it is. And this is talking about vision for ourselves. And for us personally, it can come down to your why. Why are you in this business? What do you envision for your future? Why are you doing this? For your own health and fitness, what are you wanting? Is it the weight, the inches, the confidence, the little black dress, or the black suit for the men? Because I'm hoping you're not wearing little black dresses, but each his own. And both guys are like, no. So what is it that you want to set an example for your kids, for your family, to inspire others? When you know your why and you know that vision and you can picture it, that's when growth happens. So don't picture yourself just where you are. Don't look in that rearview mirror of where you were. Picture it better than it is. Picture that future line, how that's going to feel when you accomplish that, and how many people you're going to positively impact when you accomplish that. So it's very like future vision goal oriented. The third step is make it the way you see it. Make it the way you see it. So execution. I mean, it's turning number 2 into reality. And to do that, you have to have a strategy to succeed. And that's where your vision comes to, like your breakdown activities that you're going to do every day. So to kind of throw out a quick example of this, if you're struggling in your business, see it for what it really is. Step 1. Okay, I'll use my own example. Last month was the absolute worst month of my entire business in 2 years. Absolute worst. And I could turn that into, I'm a failure, I'm not meant to do this, I'm over with, whatever. Is that reality? No, I'm going to see it for what it is. It was a bad month. I didn't do what I needed to do. I didn't make it happen. I didn't go after my goals. I let life get in the way. That's what it is. Step 2, see it better than it is. It's a building block. And this month, I'm going to knock my goals out of the park. By the end of the year, I'm going to be at least a 5-star premier coach. And in a year from now, I'm going to retire from my job. Okay, that's my vision. That's where I'm going. Step 3, make it the way you see it. Action. So the way I'm going to do that, power hour every day. Increase the number of invites from 3 to 6. Get my workouts and my nutrition under control because last month was not so good. It's taking the action steps in order to make 2 a reality. And so the way you pass this on, for one, do it for yourself because we've got to, like I said, lead ourselves before we can lead anyone else. We've got to get our mindset right. We have to believe that this is possible. We have to see where we're going, and we have to start taking action. And then we lead others to do the same. And when you're breaking this down with your coaches, help them understand that the hardships they're facing are normal. They're going to get no's. They're going to have lack of motivation some months to send invites. They're going to have periods of time where they suck at nutrition or they haven't pushed play in 2 weeks. And let them know it's not worse than they feel it is. It's just what it is. And we all hit this. Normalize that. We all need to know this is normal. We all stink sometimes, like with our health and fitness, right? Not fail, but we stink sometimes. then so help them understand that. The second thing is help them see how it's better than it is. So help them see the positives and their why and their vision and where they want to go. We all need that reminder. Coaches are awesome. Success partners are awesome. We need that reminder of why we're doing this and where we want to go. And the third one, help them execute that. Help them identify what their current behaviors are, what they aren't doing in their business, and what they need to be doing to hit those goals. And if they need that extra accountability, do a power hour with them, or send them a little card and remind them of how much you value them on their team or the lives that they're changing. Those little reminders, those little like extra things you can do make a huge impact for helping someone take that step and stay on track. So those are my 3 tips for focusing on your future, not allowing your biography to be your destiny, to moving past those fears. Action really is the best way to overcome fear. Walking across that fire at Tony Robbins was like terrifying, but it was the best way to overcome that fear because you learned when you were done, oh, that wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. And maybe it hurt a little bit, but it's not a lasting pain. And it's the same. Any fears that are holding you back, fearing failure, fearing of letting other people down, fear of not being loved, fear of losing loved ones, fear of missing out on opportunities with your kids. I mean, when you face those and you take them head on, they're a lot more, what's the right word? It's easier to take on than you expect when you're actually in it and you reach out for the support and you have that vision and you know where you're going. That make sense? Did I just ramble a lot? Okay, so I want to kind of open it up. If you guys want more explanation of something, if something was confusing, comments. If anything like hit home for you or got you thinking about something, something you think you can use moving forward. Really anything. I just kind of want to hear back from you guys for a few minutes and see how this is useful for you. Anybody? All right, go for it. Lisa.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't figure out how to do it myself. I just wanted to comment on number 2 that you said about your vision. I actually just made a vision board this week, and I have it where I can see it kind of every day, like it's right here. And it's obviously, there's a blank section. It's not done yet, but I have words to live by, just positive words, presence, gratitude, love, kind of things that we've talked about before, like leading with love and, being grateful for what you have and kind of just positive, whatever words and things. I did it this weekend. So I think I did it on the 4th, and just having it there and like looking at it, it makes me feel so much better throughout the day. Cause I'm like, okay, yeah, work's really busy. I have a lot to do, but it could be worse. I could be, not have a job or whatever. So I like having those just positive reminders there throughout the day somewhere I can see it. So just wanted to add to number 2, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And something he said was without vision, there's no growth. And it's true. Like if you don't know where you're going, you can't grow to become that. And so I love that. Just having that constant reminder kind of sets the mood and the tone and focuses your intentions. That's awesome. I like that. Anybody else have something they want to share?
I liked when you were talking about like our underlying fears, because I'll catch myself thinking like I can't do this or have all these excuses, and I can just, even if I'm aware of it, what really gets me out of it is talking to, like, sharing with the group or sharing with Brad or having like some accountability with the team other than just telling myself like, oh, I'm in a funk, and then I just stay in a funk. But getting it out there and communicating with the team is what has helped me come out of it. And when I come out of it, I think, oh, this isn't going to come back again. And it does. So then I make myself wrong, like, why is this happening again? I just dealt with this like last month or a few weeks ago or 2 months ago. But just being aware of it and sharing it and getting off of it quickly makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's so much value to being able to talk to a coach or anyone else on the team to know you're not alone. Like, same thing, like even this far into it, May, I had a hard month and I was like, June's the month, I'm in this to win it. And then like June was a bad month. And I'm like, what? I just like psyched myself up. And so it's normal. And like you said, talking to someone and having that support makes a huge difference in moving through those steps.
I have a question.
Yeah.
At what point do you feel like this comes up, I guess? Like, I know that it's probably an ongoing thing, but I just feel like we have a great training system, but I feel like I don't know, maybe I missed something in there where I didn't understand when to bring it up with my downline, these things that we just talked about.
So you're asking, like, when do you talk about that mindset or like some of the hardships you face as a coach? When to bring that up?
Yeah. And I feel like I was reacting, and a lot of times, and this actually happened with my buddy here, Homero. He was at the brink of maybe of deciding to maybe stay or go or whatever. And it was like I was reacting like, no, wait, this is what's supposed to happen. And it's like as a coach, as a someone's sponsor, we want to lead, but we don't want to lead with reaction. We want to lead with creating. You know what I mean? So like, do you have any tips on that? On like leading with creating rather than like reaction?
I think that's a good point. And I'm actually glad you brought that up because I think you're right. I definitely think that's somewhere I struggle too, because you don't want to scare people off and be like, you're going to have doubt and you're going to have worry, because you don't want to like blow that up into a bigger thing before they've faced it to make it a problem before it's a problem. But like you said, you don't want to leave them hanging where they feel like they're not cut out to do it because they have the doubt, when in reality, that's 100% normal. And I think you're right that we don't maybe talk about enough of how to be proactive with that instead of reactive, and kind of prepare our coaches and give them tips for overcoming that. And that's good feedback. I think that's worth adding to our training. And one thing I have found is not all of your coaches are going to want to do weekly or even, bi-monthly calls with you, but that's kind of a good time to feel them out and see where they're at. And I usually will ask, like, be honest, like, don't say everything's great if it's not great, because not everything's going to always be great. And if you're having difficulty, that's my job, is to help you with that. So sometimes you can kind of feel them out and get them to admit that early on. And sometimes they won't admit things are hard. So I think that's worth an extra discussion. In addition to those team call or one-on-one calls, I'd be open, and I'm sure Brad would too, of having a discussion about how to incorporate that in training.
I think that he does a wonderful job on that Getting Started Right video. He does bring up a lot of those fears and a lot of that pushback that you're going to get from even your close people, in your life. He does address it, I think so. But I don't know about you guys, but I totally tossed my responsibility of that connection with my downline. I tossed it onto that training, and I didn't really like do anything. I was like, okay, I trust that we have a great training and Getting Started Right, and we do. And then here you go, and let me just check in with you every now and then. And but I feel like somewhere along the lines I kind of missed that opportunity to really find out what the person wanted, what their fears were, what they were willing to sacrifice. Like I feel like I didn't do that in the beginning, and I was just reacting as we went on.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And maybe one thing too is, as soon as they post their video, like on the team page of their why, like why they're coaching, that that's usually when I'll schedule a first call right away and kind of explore some of that more personally with them of what they want. And I know you have an awesome application thing for coaching. I've looked at that, and that's really good. And I think that'll give you kind of a baseline, and you might even be able to, I've thought about creating a survey once after they start with some of those questions, just to get them kind of thinking and then process that over a phone call. And that might be a way to kind of add more of that personal element in addition to the training, is if we work on developing something like that to guide us in those proactive conversations. Do you think that might be helpful?
Yeah, I don't know if everyone else, hopefully I was the only one that did this. Maybe maybe it's just me, but yeah, I think that would be really helpful. And I just really did not like how I was feeling, like I was reacting. I almost felt like I was trying to convince them to stay. And the whole time it's like, no, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just trying to help you get a better perspective at this, because I've been here maybe an extra month or 2 or 3 months than you, and this is what happens. But I'm not trying to convince you. I am just letting you know that this is what happens. But then the overarching thing is that I was reacting to their to the person's maybe desire to leave or something. And that's what sucked, I think.
Yeah, and you don't want it to seem ingenuine, like you're just trying to keep them on the team. And I get that too, because sometimes it's not till you realize that they're struggling that you realize, like, oh, they don't see this opportunity yet. Like, you want them to genuinely have this incredible life-changing opportunity. You know how this is going to impact their life. And so you're like, oh, like, I just want you to see what this can actually be for you for your sake. But then you feel like you're groveling. So I think I don't think you're alone in that. That's something I think I still kind of struggle with, that balance. So I'm glad you brought it up, because that's a really good conversation for us to have of how to balance that and be more upfront. I like it. I wrote it down. We're going to do it. Cool. Anybody else?
Me kind of being on the opposite end of that, it did feel like he was just trying to convince me to stay. But it was kind of my own thing going on. It wasn't so much, he needed the business or anything. It's just I had my own stuff going on. It was so serious that it wasn't worth it. It was kind of that fear of, do I continue with this or have more problems at home? So it was kind of making that choice. So it wasn't exactly his fault or anything. So that's part of the don't see it worse than it is, see it for what it is. So you can't let it snowball or, take it personally. Because, sometimes people's stuff is more serious than, trying to do a new job or something. Or maybe it's not the right time. They tried it, but it's not the right time. They're not quite ready to make that change. So I think that's part of it. The other thing is I see it a lot of this coaching from what I see in like sports coaching. The ones that are really successful are the ones, or develop players. They're the ones that really care for the player, what their needs are. If they're really trouble, they take them under their wing and whatnot. And those are the ones that succeed. So you kind of just got to have that interest in it, and not think so much what it's going to do for your business, but what it's going to do for the coach.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Very, very true. Good reminder, of ultimately if someone wants this business, they're going to run with it, whether, Adrian, you're in constant contact or not. And like you said, sometimes it's just not the right time and they'll come back when it is. But I think that's a really good discussion. I'm glad this came up from both angles. That's really helpful to hear that feedback. Okay, I feel like we should wrap up because this went longer than I expected, but you guys are awesome. And I feel like we should wrap up with a dance party. Peak State? Yes, to that. Whichever little one that was. Okay, you guys ready? Can you hear it? My husband's like, I know it's silly, just do it. You're going to feel so much happier after. Jared, I think you should come dance.
Are we still recording?
Oh,
Oh, shit.
yes, little boy dancing. Oh, okay, that's there's children here. I love the kids. Okay. Go kill it. And by that, I mean, let's go help some people. Yeah? 3 by the end of the week? Whoop, whoop. Okay, guys. I hope you guys have a good night. I hope this was helpful. If you want any follow-up or more information, hit me up. But like tomorrow, because then I'm gone for a while. Okay. You guys are awesome. Hope you guys have a good night, and we will chat soon. Bye.